And welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's start with our opening prayer and then off we go. O Great Spirit, Father Sky, Mother Earth, the winds, the waters, my Father, my Mother, Atanaha, all that is. We thank you for our lives and we thank you for these good people. We thank you for all that we are and all that we are to become. We dedicate our time spent together and our relationships with one another to you. We ask that our suffering be ended and our pain be lifted to the love and to the peace that lay beyond. Aho, Amen, Namaste. Okay, so I'm on Restream again. If you pop in your questions, then I remember to pop your name underneath or to say yes so that I can see you. We're focusing on soulmate shadow work this afternoon. So today we're gonna jump right in, jump right into the parts of ourselves that are unconsciously or somatically blocking us from manifesting our soulmate's desires. Okay. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that we make in relationships is dumping our emotions onto our partner and masking this vomiting of feelings and this emotional abuse as being honest or as protecting ourselves or as being truthful. And the truth is that your relationship cannot survive you criticizing your partner on a consistent basis. Criticism corrodes love. And John Gottman proved in his studies on relationships that it would literally only take you criticizing your partner 5 times a day, and it would take 10 compliments or 10 actions to undo the damage that the criticism had done onto the relationship. Okay. So it's really important that you understand that it's not your job to fix your partner. And it's not your job to criticize your partner. It's your job to love your partner. And if you are carrying a lot of anger, or a lot of resentment, and they're violating your boundaries and they're not changing, trust me when I say that no amount of criticism makes a person change, right? Criticism comes from a place of fear. It does not come from a place of feedback. It does not come from a place of love. So you can give feedback in a loving way. You can say, hey, I didn't like the way you spoke to me earlier. Hey, I didn't like the way you treated me in front of the children. Hey, but if it doesn't energetically come from a place of love, you will block the communication. And a lot of people do that, which is why it sounds insane. But when your feelings arise, the most important thing for you to do is to breathe. If you want somebody else to be with your feelings, you have to learn to be with your feelings, right? For starters, everyone's a mirror. Um, and the other aspect of it is that it becomes emotional abuse. It makes us feel better when we let our pain out, but it very often makes the other person that we're talking to feel terrible, especially if we let it out as a fountain of criticism or blame or shame, and it just goes, it just goes straight on top of them. Now, most of us are so unconscious that we can't help it. The same way that you would sneeze or cough or vomit if you were sick, you wouldn't be able to help it. When we are emotionally in pain, we end up, criticizing and fixing and sabotaging or being passive aggressive to people without even noticing, because it's a symptom of unhealed, unaddressed anger. So we're just going to do a clearing on resentment and on criticism. And we're going to bring in the angels to help you shift to a place of loving communication, given and received, especially around boundaries, especially around needs, because that's where you need to be clear and to be loving the most. And it's the places where you're the most likely not to get your needs met. Now, this is really relevant for cancer in particular. And if you haven't read When the Body Says No, it's got a collection of all the research that showed that particularly women who were giving a lot more than they were receiving and who were angry, right? And were not expressing those feelings, that were very nurturing, but that were actually angry that they hadn't received that love in childhood, still weren't receiving that love in adulthood, were able to predict just from this personality type whether or not the person had cancer with 92% accuracy rate in the research. So you need to start releasing your anger, and releasing it might be through journaling, releasing it might be through screaming into a pillow, it might be through doing the heart song. And once the anger is released, you need to start expressing your boundaries and having those conversations, right? Because it's not just about knowing your feelings, it's about figuring out what you're going to do about them. The problem with it, with vomiting feelings, is that we haven't been present with our own feelings and we don't actually know how to meet our own needs. And when you're having difficult conversations, you have to be able to say what happened and what needs to happen for the situation to be resolved, and what you are going to do if that situation is not resolved. Because people know if you're just threatening with leaving, or if you're just threatening consequences, but you don't have the emotional musculature to enforce the rules that you set, right? And anyone that's ever had kids knows that. You set a boundary, they're going to test that boundary 20 times, 30 times, 40 times. Adults, on average, you set a boundary and it's going to be, 10 to 20 times that they will test that new boundary to see if it will hold. And there was a really cute little video on YouTube a few years ago of a little girl um, saying that, she asks mummy 20 times, because when she asks mummy 20 times, on time 20 mummy always says yes, right? So kids and adults know this. I had a client that was very similar. Her little kid knew that if he asked his mum 10 times, then his mum would say yes. So very often people know exactly where our boundaries hold and where our boundaries break, right? So it's really important that you know what you need, what the boundary is, like basically how it's going to help recreate the trust, create more balance, create more peace, and the consequences if that change doesn't happen within a set period of time, right? And it has to be a realistic period of time. It takes other people time to change to meet your needs. Change is not just difficult for you, it's challenging for most, it's universal. So a realistic time period for that change to become permanent. And then if it hasn't become permanent, you know what the consequences are going to be. And then working on your unconscious and your somatic trauma so that you can actually enforce um, the boundaries that you put up, because people know if you don't have the courage to hold your own boundaries. Okay, let's have a look. Dear Sky, can you please tell me what's stopping me to get to the next level? Thank you. Okay, let me have a look. Angels, what's the deal? I'm going to bring in the business angels, the loving angels. Okay, so the angels are showing me like high school trauma and this real fear that what you create isn't real, and what you create doesn't have any value. Kind of like from when they tell you, like, to pass an exam, you have to be able to remember other people's theories, other people's beliefs. They don't want your opinion, they want the facts. So there's an energy of like, nobody wants my input, nobody wants my opinion. It's like my own creativity has no worth. And then it's stopping you from creating the course content. It's stopping you from showing up on the level that you need to be showing up. Okay, there you go. Okay. Oh, that's still clearing, so I'm going to keep letting that clear in the background. You have to know that you have gold in you, that your course ideas matter, that your opinion matters, that your feelings matter. And anybody that taught you otherwise was, emotionally abused the same way that you were. But your perspective, your opinion, your creativity, your version has monetary worth. Okay, there we go. Dear Sky, can you please, no, that's the same one. Dear Sky, when do I meet My most compatible soulmate next year. Are there any blocks there? Thank you. Iona. Yes, my love. There are a few blocks that we've already discussed. So now it's time to start working those blocks. If you didn't watch the last angel reading, there was a lot on there about your particular um, blocks around letting people be themselves, around letting people have their boundaries instead of forcing your free will on them or trying to make them do what you think they should do. So I would go and have a look at that. Barbara Young is saying, hi, Sky, love to you all. Love to you too, Barbara. Hi, lovely. I feel like I've met quite a few soulmates in my life already. Yes. Can you see when and how I can meet the next most compatible soulmate or divine life partner? Alison. Okay. So this is a trust wound. And you don't, like your angels are showing me, like you said, you don't struggle to meet men. You struggle to let them be men. And you're actually afraid of real male energy. So you're dating little boys instead of dating men that are in their adult masculine energy. So can we release the part of you that's still scared of your father, still scared of any abusive partners, especially because they're showing me you kind of work with abuse, and replace it with knowing the difference between masculinity and machismo or masculine wound. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's only toxic trauma. There we go. Okay, that's looking a lot better. Hi, Sky. Me again. What is blocking me from manifesting my soulmate relationships in my life? Thank you. Okay, so this is a core fear of getting hurt. So can we release the belief that you're like a fragile thing that can't handle challenges? There we go. And release the belief that men are dangerous. Look, there are all types of people in the world, both men and women. There are dangerous women in the world, right? And there are dangerous men in the world. You don't want to be in a relationship with either of them. So can we release the focus on dangerous people? There we go. And show you to focus on loving, kind, determined, driven, motivated people. Okay, Palomina says, hi, Sky. Please, may I request a clearing for whatever is blocking me from meeting my compatible partner? Also, what does he look like? Okay, I'm not going to go into what they look like. I'm just going to go into what's blocking you. Okay, so when I'm tuning into your energy, you're almost wearing an invisibility cloak, and I can feel this energy like this stay here. So this is about safety. Can we show you how to feel safe? It's almost like you're bringing all the baggage from the previous relationships that you were abused in into the present moment. Can we just release all that so that you can actually be present? Masculine, loving men, like the divine masculine, loves to keep women safe and keep women happy. And when you are taking out on them the toxic behavior of your father, the toxic behavior of your ex-boyfriend. That's not fair. It's no different than if your husband is taking out on you the toxic behavior of his ex-wife or his mother. That you wouldn't like it either. So can we just release this I'm not safe and you're not safe and you have to prove to me that you're safe thing you've got going on? And just show you the truth. You can tell intuitively if someone's safe at the very beginning. If you don't feel safe in that first conversation, then you're not safe. There we go. You don't need 1,000 walls. You don't need someone to prove to you they're safe. If you turn around to a toxic person and you show them exactly where your vulnerability is, okay, of course, right? Of course, they're going to go for it. So if you say to this person who doesn't know how to really love, who's scared that they are not lovable, my issue is safety. If you can just make me feel safe, then I will love you. They're going to go out of their way at the beginning of the relationship to make you feel safe, just so that they can get into bed with you and they can get what they want, because they are into manipulating. They want to get what they want. They have no intention of loving you. They have an intention of winning or conquering you. So it's a very different energy. Don't tell people, especially strangers, exactly where your wounds are. They haven't earned the right to hear your story. They haven't earned the right to know your wounds. So can we release you from telling people, particularly on like anything, any date within the first 2 months, where your wounds are? It's not going to make you feel safe. Your job when you're dating people or when you're getting to know people is to watch them, right? And see who they are, not to tell them exactly what to do to get into your heart and into your head. You need to know who they are to find out if they're your compatible soulmate. Don't give them a map. There we go. You don't give the keys to the hen house to the fox. Some of you are literally giving toxic people the keys to your heart and to your head and wondering how they got in there. You gave them the key. You gave them the map. There we go. Right? And the right people don't need a map. They are kind. They are funny. They are they know their values. They do have integrity. The right people don't need a map. They are who they are, and they would be that way if they were in a relationship with you or not, right? The right people would spend enough time with you to one day go, I noticed that you don't feel very safe. You wouldn't have to tell them, I don't feel very safe, right? They would bring their presence and their time to the table. Okay. Thank you for holding space, Katie. Christian is saying, I want to be in your feelings. No, trust me, you don't. You really don't. You really don't. You don't want to be in anybody's feelings. You want to be in your own energy. Okay. Jupiter's Rose saying, yay, I love catching up live twice in the same day. It's nice, isn't it? I love being with you guys. Thank you for the Abundance and Soulmate series. It's been so good. May I ask when I will meet my divine life partner? So they showed me this last time and they're showing me again. It's still spring. So I think you're going to be going on holiday and they keep showing me spring. So May, April, you're going to meet them, and you're going to meet them when you're not around your home. Lorraine saying, hey Sky, my partner's ex still trying to get back with him. And I fear there is a bond and I feel bad and threatened. How can I solve this? Thank you. Okay. So let's just start by removing the belief that she is the problem, right? The reality is that if your partner doesn't love you enough, you need to know. And that's what you have to be present with. Okay? So can we release your fear of seeing the truth of the situation? If your partner doesn't love you enough, you need to know. If you can't trust your partner, you need to know. It's not about them, it's about you. Remove the ex from the picture, and you would still have these issues and they would still destroy the relationship long term. So if you can't trust your partner, right, which is what you're telling me, and you think he has stronger connection feelings for someone else, then we really have to look at why this isn't creating a whole different behavior system instead of jealousy and anger, why this isn't creating distancing, consequences, self-protection. Okay, and I actually get the feeling your angels are telling me that he's enjoying the fact that you're jealous. He's enjoying it. It's like proof that you actually care. So I think you're withholding praise and validation in the relationship. So I think you need to bring that back. You need to bring back praising and validating and nurturing your relationship 3 or 4 times a day. Barbara Young, hi Sky, what's blocking me from completing my Sacred Star coaching certification? Struggling with the marketing part and connecting with intuition to get the answers. Marketing's a visibility wound. So that's part of something there's a reason I teach marketing inside medical intuitive technique as of this year. And it's because marketing is about being visible. Visibility comes up in the narcissistic family dynamic because if you were raised in a narcissistic family or an addictive family, then you will have the belief that you have to be invisible to survive. And then there's the past life persecution stuff where 9 million women were killed for being visible. So this energy of consistently showing up, there is a ceiling. You're not imagining it, right? There is a ceiling. And when you first start going up against it and you start hitting this energy of like, let me to the next level, let me to the next level, let me to the next level. If you build up enough courage and you're hitting that ceiling and you're like, I'm going to keep going at this. I'm going to use all of my courage and all of my divine power and all of my divine skills. And I'm going to keep going and going and going until this wall around my soul comes down. Right. And I'm going to make it and I'm going to get through it and I'm going to get to the next level. You think you've got a wall that's this thick to get through. Actually, it's a wall that's this thick to get through. But what happens is most people hit the wall once and they're like, oh, ow, I'm not doing that again. Right? So the people that break through the ceiling are the people that go 1, 2, 3, 4, exactly like you're in the gym, right? You don't stop till you break through into the next level. What does next level marketing require? If you look at what I do, you will see I consistently post every single day. I make time and space to communicate with you. I share information that is valuable. I don't like have this rule that I'm only going to share valuable content with you in my container. Or I share information that's valuable with you. I am myself with you, whether I'm online, whether I'm inside my containers, whether I'm teaching liver flushing or medical intuition or fierce fertility. I connect with you like real people. You're not my clients. You're the ministry. You're other miracle workers, right? And I communicate with you on a regular basis because I love you, and that's how I would like you to communicate with me, right? The same way. If you only message me when you need something, that's not a real relationship. If we talk on a consistent and regular basis and we share information and we help each other with each other's lives, that's a real community. That's real relationship. So marketing is community. And what did we lose when we were persecuted? Community. What did we lose through family trauma? Community. So we have to grieve the loss of the community in order to give us permission to build a new one. And that's what happens when you are marketing. You are just as real, right? You're not sitting in my office right now, but you are, right? You are in front of me in my office. Energetically, there are over 50 people in my office right now, and you are real. You are real as if you were in the same room. We were having a conference in London, and I would never ignore you or gaslight you or avoid you if we were actually in the same room. So people have these weird behaviors online that they see as normal that they would never do in a public group situation. That it makes absolutely perfect sense. You would never ghost people and not talk to everybody as you came in if you were in a theta healing class, right? You'd walk into theta healing class, you'd be like, hi everyone, how are you doing? You never just come in and lurk. You'd come in and say hello. If you were studying together, you would show up on a regular basis. If you couldn't be somewhere, you'd just say why, and you'd say when you can come back, right? If you were going through something and you walked into a room, people would be able to read your energy and read your body language, and they'd ask you, how are you? Right? What's up? You don't look like yourself today. And you'd say, yeah, I had a hard time with this, or I had a hard time with that. So these very real behaviors that we engage in a social context, we're blind on social media, right? So then you're forced, and this is where I think God is a genius, right? You are forced to rely on your psychic and your intuitive abilities, and then you are forced to develop them, right? Because I have to feel everybody in the room and be with everybody in the room, even if they're not physically here. And I never had to do that before this thing with COVID and before this working online. I was only doing it with visible people and with real people. So it does take your psychic gifts to another level. But with the marketing, it is really about grieving the loss of the village and really understanding that it's not marketing. Stop calling it marketing. Start calling it it's consistent communication and real communication. If you think of it as marketing, your brain puts it like in a box up here of something else you have to do for work that you don't really want to do. I've never met a spiritual healer that wants to do marketing. They're like, F that. I want to heal people, right? So let's look at it this way. In order for people to heal, you need to destroy isolation. The biggest way to destroy isolation, you write to someone, you talk to someone, you care about someone, you figure out what people need and you give it to them. That is marketing, right? So you guys are going to be incredible at marketing. It's not like a weird business box over here. It is what you do on a daily basis in your normal relationships. Just translate it to this area of your heart where you get that it's the same thing, right? If your soulmate traveled to a different country, if your daughter traveled to a different country, you would write to them at least 2 or 3 times a week. You would text them to find out how they were doing. You would send them funny things. You wouldn't just try to sell them stuff all the time, right? So it's thinking about people as other human beings who love you and that you love, as being separate from you, and you doing your very best to show them that they are loved and to help them become who they were always supposed to be, to help them fulfill their divine life purpose. When you think of marketing like that, it dissolves most of the issues, right? When you really get that marketing is a weird, patriarchal way of talking about communication, because men don't. And this is like the different styles because of years and years and years of genetics and conditioning and survival, right? Men don't communicate the way women communicate. When they come home from work and you go, how was your day? They're like, it was fine. And that's because if a man's out hunting, and he's talking all the time, he's never going to catch dinner. And if a man's out taking the harvest or the treasure that they've dug up after months of work to the market to sell so that he can have money to support his family or take back to his village, and he's making a ruckus in the woods, he's not going to have his treasures for long. So men are hardwired to not communicate as much. But women, it was the opposite. Women, we were out in the field, we were gathering berries, we were gathering herbs, we were preparing the herbs, we were taking care of the children. And to monitor all of this as a group, as a team, as a village of women, we were constantly communicating. We would come back from a walk with the kids and go, the berries are in season, we need to go now, they're going to be destroyed within 2 or 3 days. You would go as a team, you would gather the berries. As you were gathering the berries, you would be discussing where are the kids, right? And who's watching them and how have they developed and where have they grown and where are you concerned about them? And then you would get home and you'd prepare the berries. And that might be as a meal, or that might be by drying them, or that might be by making a tincture. And all of that would be based on the conversations that you had about what the children needed, about what the men needed, about what the village needed. Right? So women have a very different way of communicating for survival. And if a woman walks into a room and says hello, and you ask her how is she doing, and you go, she goes, oh, I'm fine. You know that she's not telling you everything, because women just normally start chattering about their lives, right? So it's that energy of I need to communicate, and I need to communicate consistently, I need to communicate lovingly, and I need to understand that other people are having a hard time, And the job of my marketing is to warm their hearts. The job of my marketing is to bring them home to God. The job of my marketing is to heal. I want them to open that email and get a transmission and a download from that email. I want them to read that social media post and know that they not just are loved, not like some superficial conversation, like a deep, real conversation. And that requires vulnerability. That requires you sharing not just your story, but your heart, your soul, what's really going on for you. These are not superficial conversations. You have a superficial conversation with people and you're going to get a superficial connection. Right? It's important to have those conversations. And you guys see me having them with you. You guys know that I'm working on my leadership. You guys know, that I struggled with the move. You guys know when I was sick with my son, right? And how I was having a difficult time showing up for him and still being here with you. You guys see everything that I'm doing, right? So it's exactly the same. It's about being who you are so that the people who are supposed to be around you are around you, but it's also about being brave enough to raise the level of communication so that you can have real intimate relationships based on real connection instead of superficial ones. Brenda, how do I release the belief I'm not good enough when it comes to romantic relationships specifically? You're going to have to look at your childhood traumas and your family tree, right? And particularly the relationship between your mom and your dad, because their relationship between 0 to 3 years of age, even if your father was absent, i.e., left or abandoned, or your mother was absent, left or abandoned, that is still a relationship, right? It's just an unrequited love relationship. So the first step to any journey is getting a map. And the map is looking at your romance blueprint and what is familiar. If your mother or your father believed they weren't good enough for love, then you're going to have the same blueprint, the same the same things that need to be cleared. So you need to make a clear blueprint, and then you need to work on clearing those traumas, because that little kid believed it wasn't enough because its parents told it or its carers told it, right? So you have to tell that child that it was always enough, that it will always be enough, and that the parents were wrong, right? And it's the same thing. You don't learn healthy relationships from people that didn't have them. You can only learn healthy relationships from people that did have them. So you have to go online and watch videos from healthy relationships, like John Gottman and his wife, like Anthony Robbins and Sage, like um, what's some of the other ones that I love? Gosh, there are loads, but I like Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. You want to go and look at couples that have healthy, supportive, loving, intimate relationships, and you can actually go on romance websites to see the traits of a healthy relationship. And you want to give yourself those as downloads, but you also want to put that into a hypnosis recording or into a guided meditation from fiverr.com that you listen to over and over and over again, because you're reprogramming your subconscious mind to make loving, respectful, committed relationships familiar. So that's what you're doing, and that's why you're doing it. Hi, Sky. Lots of love. How can I be more ready for my divine life partner? Where is he at? Can I speed things up? My love, I think you need to take a program. I think you might need to study. Like there's a book called Calling in the One. That's a very good 6-week program that you can do with the book. I loved the Anthony Robbins relationship program, but you need a program, and not like a theta program. You need a program where you are going to be forced to go deeper and be more challenged than you've ever been challenged before. And in a room full of people that can actually see your behaviors. So you might want to ask an ex-boyfriend or someone to go with you, because you want to be in a room where people can actually clock the games that you're playing. The parts of you that show up in an intimate relationship are not the parts of you that show up in therapy. They're not the parts of you that show up in a healing session. And unless your healer's psychic like me, they're not going to call you on your crap. You're going to walk in there going, oh, I did everything and the relationship just didn't work out, and they're going to believe you, right? Instead of actually finding out what you did. And so much of what you're doing to sabotage your relationships is not conscious. You are not aware of it. So you need people to be able to see. It's probably worth, if you have recordings of old interactions with boyfriends or exes, to watch those videos and see what your body language is, see what your behavior is, see what those conversations are. I would also start recording the conversations that you have with men on dates and find out what you're saying. I'll give you an example. So um, with all of my partners before my husband, when I didn't know I was doing this, it was completely unconscious. But as part of me doing my certification in hypnotherapy, God, that's almost 12 years ago now, they told us to record 3 or 4 of our conversations, or to journal straight after we had arguments with our partner. And it quickly became obvious that in every single serious fight that we had, I was telling him that I wanted to be left alone, right? So he would do something wrong. I said, just leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to be around you. And I was also telling him to leave me. So it takes on average 300 to 700 suggestions for these suggestions to cross what they call the conscious critical faculty. And the conscious critical faculty is the part of the brain, right, that decides what becomes you and what is other people's. And that's why they when they run marketing ads, they run so many of them, because they know it takes a long time for it to get from your conscious mind into your unconscious mind. They know exactly what they're doing. They've poured billions into figuring out how to get into your head, right? So it's the same thing. But if you're doing it unconsciously because it's part of your family blueprint, right? This was very similar to what my mom used to say. She used to say that she wanted to be left alone, and that she was leaving. She was never going to be loved or appreciated, so she was leaving. And I would do the exact same thing when the rubber hit the road and when the chips were down. That's where my ego was going. So what was I programming them to do? To leave me, and to abandon me, to basically leave me alone and to abandon me. So it took around about 3 or 4 years, which is around about how long it takes a suggestion, right? It took me to say it 300 or 400 times, took us to have that many arguments where they would leave me alone, and I would get abandoned. After that, discovering that, I stopped saying that in my arguments with my husband. I would say things to him like, I'm really angry with you. I need some time to cool off. And I would also say, um, um, I know you love me, but that really wasn't cool, as opposed to saying, you never loved me, you're just going to leave me anyway, right? And, it led to getting engaged and getting married like this, because I changed tiny things that I was doing inside the relationship, but that nobody would have been able to see, nobody would have been able to pick up unless they were actively listening into my phone conversations, unless they were, and even my partner wouldn't have been able to tell you I said those words in every argument, because they're normally stressed in every argument and they're thinking about themselves. They're not really thinking about you. Right? So I would really get someone to have a deep look at what's going on. I would film myself in interactions with partners, or audio record myself, so that I can see the things that I say, the places that I go, the things that I do. One of the other things that really shifted my relationship, and I only did this last year, not last year, no, that's not true. It was before COVID, it was before my son was born, is that I realized that I was saying to my husband that I did nothing. I didn't know why he wasn't respecting my work on the level that I would like him to, but I started recording my conversations, and I realized that every time he was asking me, "What have you been up to?" I would say, "Oh, not much. I haven't been doing anything, just getting on with stuff." So I was giving him the message that I wasn't working, that my work wasn't important, and that it wasn't respect worthy, right? So now when he asks me what I'm doing, I say I had a really good day at work. I tell him like the breakthroughs that I had. I tell him that what's it called, that I helped this many people. And his respect towards my work completely shifted because of the way that I was discussing it with him. Right? So you need to look at the way that you communicate about your own work, about your own about what you actually want when you're arguing, when the chips are down. And that's going to take some deeper self-reflection, but that's what would speed things up, because wherever you go, there you are, right? Okay, one more. Okay, Marcella, done. We can do this in your DNA. Don't worry, creator's on it. Maya saying, hi, Skylar, holding space with you. Thank you for encouragements and thank you for answering the angel reading. You're welcome, my love. Hi, Sky. I've been getting guidance to help people clear their trauma and karma in a much quicker way than if I was going through every single traumatic event. I would describe this as collapsing the Akashic records and moving them into the fifth dimension to empower them. Not sure yet how to do that or if I'm right. What are the angels saying? Many thanks for your amazing work. My love, angels aren't human, right? So you can 100% collapse time and trauma. I'm more than capable of healing many of my lifetimes in one go. But when it comes to doing trauma work, you have to meet the client where they are. So it's not about how fast, it's about how good the healing is. Um, Healers are very good at doing things faster, and especially because we think our clients can go at the same speed that we can go at, and they haven't done 300 healings. They've maybe done 50, you know. But you 100% can collapse records and move things into the fifth dimension to empower them. You would do it basically the NLP way. You would get them to imagine the past life memories coming up on a screen, or their traumas coming up on a screen, and to dialogue with the different aspects of themselves, to gain the lessons, and then be able to collapse time in their subconscious mind on the fifth plane of existence that way. But I would say it's quite an advanced thing. And I've noticed that there's a few similar approaches both in RTT and in NLP. And what I find is it works unless there's a very high emotional charge. So let's say you have a charge is like on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most charged situation can be, the person's already crying when they walk in the room, 5 being like they're triggered, and 0 being nothing. So I'd say that those techniques work best when someone's around a 5 to a 1, but anything from 5 to 10, you need to kind of allow them to release their emotions, because normally the way they get to a 10 is that they've got repressed emotions that they're terrified of feeling, along with the beliefs that the emotions will kill them, etc. And that's when you get psychics that know exactly what happened. They can tell you how they were tortured in another life, but they can't let it go, and they won't come out and be visible, right? What you'll also find is the more advanced healers are, the more they'll argue with you. And I've had a couple interesting conversations over the last couple of days where they go, I'm already doing this, I'm already doing that. And then I go onto their social media page, or I go to see what their sessions are. And I'm like, okay, none of this is here. And they're like, yeah, but I know it. And I'm like, well, with all due respect, if you knew it, you'd be doing it, right? There's a journey without distance between the mind and the heart. And until it's here, you're not going to do it. So your job in the session, it's exactly what Course in Miracles is, to get the transformation from here to here. Because knowing will never create divine action. Only courage can do that, right? And courage comes from the opening of the heart and the ability to feel the feelings. So 100% what you're discussing is possible. Just be careful it's not lending itself to bypassing lifetime worths of feelings and then blocking the divine action. Okay, I'm going to stop here and do our closing prayer. I am officially booked up with discovery calls till December 21st. We're going to see if we can find a way of opening up my calendar a bit more. I'm going to discuss it with my husband, but I'm going to be speaking to a friend to help with the discovery calls, who's already done the course, so that they can answer your questions in depth, and choosing someone that I trust to help with that too. Okay. Please feel free to DM me or message me and send voice notes if you still want to know more about medical intuitive, or thinking about coming, but just can't squeeze yourself in with a discovery call. I'm happy to answer that way. I'm happy to do discovery calls that way, but I have to be able to move. You guys know I'm a mom and I have to balance, work life. So just DM me, just message me. I can do clearings just as well on a messenger as I can in real life or on Zoom. So don't worry about it. But please don't let it stop you from touching base, because I know that you guys have life-saving gifts. I know that you need to connect and have a community that will take care of you. And I know that no matter what blocks you've been facing, no matter how long you haven't had a client, that it's not going to be an issue the moment you get in the room with someone that loves you. Okay, let's do our closing prayer. O Great Spirit, Father Sky, Mother Earth, the winds, the waters, my Father, my Mother, Atanaha, all it is. We thank you for our lives and we thank you for these good, good people. We thank you for all that we are and all that we are to become. We dedicate our time spent together and our relationships one another to you. We ask that our suffering be ended and our pain be lifted to the love and to the peace that lay beyond. Aho, Amen, Namaste.